Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So every single month I send out a monthly newsletter, and one of the sections in the newsletter is a monthly favorites. But I realized the other day that I've never really done a video form of favorites, so I thought today I would share with you an all-inclusive, ever-spanning list of favorites from spring into summer. Back in the summer when I was doing a ton of hiking, like I was hiking every single week, one of my non-negotiable photography accessories was the Peak Design Capture Clip. So this little guy just attaches to your camera backpack strap, and what you can do is when you're hiking and you want to be hands-free, you can basically attach your camera to the design clip on your camera strap, and then when you want to take a photo of something, you just kind of hit the release button here and it will release your camera, and you can go take the photo that you want and you can reattach it to your camera strap, and that way you can be hands-free when you want to be, but you don't have to constantly pull your camera in and out of your backpack. Now that we are well into summer, I've come to realize that one of my favorite seasons probably for photography was spring. And if you're ever planning a photography trip to the Okanagan, I'm gonna recommend spring to you for a couple of reasons. One, the wildflowers are blooming. So arrowleaf balsam roots here in the spring were blooming, and it was so spectacular to see. All of the south-facing mountain slopes were just covered in these golden sunflower looking flowers, and so it was really, really great. It was all lush green and yellow, so the wildflowers are awesome. Two, the weather and the atmospheric conditions seem to be a little bit more milder. So in the springtime, you have a lot of partially cloudy, sunny days, and then you kind of have cloudy days, but you kind of have a mix of the two. And I said in my last video, we just experienced a heat wave here in the summer, so we had 5 days of 42, 43 degree weather, and then after the heat wave was over, we had smoke. So we had smoke covering the valley for around 5 to 7 days, and so it was just so unbearable to go out during the heat wave and then later during the smoke. And so spring just seems to offer a little bit more milder, a little bit more predictable, evener atmospheric weather conditions. As well, here in the Okanagan, it's a lot slower. The season itself, the traffic, the people, it just seems to be a lot slower. So I really noticed from spring into summer, as soon as summer hit and restrictions opened up, this place got so busy. Beaches, parks, streets, the highway, everything here got so much busier when we started entering into summer. The weather was a lot nicer, and you can't go to all of these places without hitting kind of crowds of people. And so that's something nice about spring, is that you can go out really anytime during the day, morning, night, and you're not going to hit as many crowds. It's going to be a lot quieter at all of these locations. And so I'm just really finding that spring has offered the best kind of conditions for photography, personally for myself, if you love doing sort of that nature, outdoor landscape photography type of a thing. So I've already mentioned this book in another video, but one of my favorite photography books is called The Heart of the Photograph by David Duchemin, and he does this really great job of breaking down photography elements and figuring out the best way to express your subject. So I really, really love this book. And then another photography favorite book of mine has been this one called Women Photographers. And what drew me to picking up this book is I was just in my local bookstore, and I thought, I saw the list of all of the photographers featured in the book, and I just was kind of interested in flipping through it, and I ended up grabbing towards reading this book every single day in June. And so this book has just really inspired me to learn and research the great, amazing photographers out there. So a couple of my favorites in this book were Berenice, and I'm sorry if I say any of these names, but she did a series called Changing New York, and she basically documented the changes that were undergoing New York at a rapid pace, and it really made me think about Kelowna and all of the changes that we've undergone since I was a child growing up here. And then the second photographer that I really love in this book is Herlinde. She's a German photographer, and a couple series that really stuck out to me were Clothes Make the Man, as well as Fascination of Science. She just has this absolutely wonderful process of researching her subjects and figuring out the best way to kind of express them and express the photographs. And so the book has just really inspired me to research and learn from these great, amazing photographers. Going hand in hand with learning from some of these great, amazing photographers is some of the advice that they've imparted on us. And one of my favorite pieces of advice that have really stuck with me and really resonated with me was from Sebastiao Salgado when he talked about photographing with all of your ideologies, as well learning about your subject before you were photographing them, but also studying other subjects kind of around it so you have a better understanding of what you were photographing. You might remember in a couple of videos that I've mentioned that I love planning and organization, and probably my hands down favorite tool for it is Milanote. I use Milanote for everything. I have a trip coming up this summer to Victoria, and I use Milanote to plan that trip. I'm also getting married this summer, and so I use Milanote to plan my wedding. I also use Milanote to plan my YouTube channel as well. The Summer in the Okanagan photography collection that I'm working on, I use Milanote to plan that photography project. So I use Milanote for everything, and it's literally hands down my favorite online tool. And I think it's because it's a very visual tool, and I'm a very visual learner, visual person. I like having diagrams. I like seeing photos and mood boards and everything like that. I'm just a very visual person. So I think that's why I like Milanote. But yeah, hands down favorite digital tool. I know I've already done a video about the 25mm from Olympus, but this little guy has been my favorite lens like the past month and a half, even also with traveling to a Soyuz. It has just been, it's so small and lightweight and compact. I can throw it in my everyday bag. It's perfect for all of those moments. And something that I also really enjoyed that I talked about it in my last video was, or the video before, was taking it on evening strolls, because I don't always want to bring my camera with me, but I also don't want to like miss out on a moment for either Summer in the Okanagan or whatever the reason may be. So the 25mm has definitely been like one of my favorite lenses and has been just completely attached to the body at all times. As you might have seen from my last video, I recently got back from a trip to a Soyuz, and the Ona Bowery bag that I took on that trip has just been a favorite when it comes to like a minimalistic setup. So what I really like about it is you have this like really large back pocket that you can put your phone into, and then within the bag itself, you have these two smaller pockets that are perfect for lens caps. Like you can just take the lens cap off, pop it in the bag, and then when you need to put it back, you can just like take it out. So these have been perfect for keeping track of lens cap. And then the bag itself is pretty roomy. It came with one divider originally, and because I have other bags, sometimes I'll use dividers from those bags in order to create further spacing. But I have found that I can carry the 40-150 and the 12-40 in this bag, but it is a little tight, and it's also it makes the bag quite heavy. I have found that 25mm alone, awesome, takes like little room in this bag, but I think honestly maybe the 25mm and the 12-40 or even the 7-14 would work well in this bag. But this bag has just been a really great staple for like a minimalistic setup and has been one of my favorites. One non-photography but photography related favorite is wine. So I mentioned in my last video that I love going on wine tastings. I love hearing about their stories, and I've really enjoyed photographing at the different wineries. And going back to Sebastiao Salgado's advice about photographing with all of your ideologies and learning about your subject, something that I've been trying to do almost on a nightly basis is just spend a bit of time learning about the wine industry. So things like the things that go into making a wine label, the whole process of making wine, how the weather and the climate change and everything affect the vineyards. And so I've just tried to spend a bit of time every night learning about the wine industry so I can have a better understanding and a better connection when I'm photographing them at my next wine tasting. So one of my go-to websites for this has been Wine Folly. She has a lot of articles about just the wine industry. And then another recent find was the Wine and Spirit Education Trust. They also have a lot of articles about just wine tastings and learning about the wine industry. So those are some of my spring and summer photography, non-photography favorite. Let me know down in the comments what kind of favorites you have for photography, non-photography, or if any of the favorites I listed today kind of are similar to yours. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then hit that like button and subscribe. Maybe buy me a cup of coffee, and I'll see you in the next one.